is almost impossible unless we bring back this little guy as well. That's how critically important they are. So just to wind up, just to conclude the presentation today, these foraging pits by animals bring together resources in time and space, and that's critical in desert systems because it reinforces that really important network of nutrient and water-rich patches that are the key to these arid and semi-arid systems. It provides spatial and temporal connectivity. As we've seen from these examples, the activity may assist or hamper recovery, but I guess our challenge now is to understand the landscape level effects, but not only that, to understand how we can use these organisms to help us to restore degraded systems. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and also for being on time.
Oh, beautiful.
The beer comes afterwards. You know the reputation. Okay, just some lights. You got the camera. So one just over there.
Oh, sorry.
You can't run away. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so some questions from the audience, I think. Over there.
Simon, thanks for a very nice talk. I just want to ask you, is it, I think you must come and study the nitrate in the Kalahari, because we have a problem there with that. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, I'm just waiting for some funding and documentation.
So you can come to this. But the problem is it's very seasonal. And the question is the occurrence of rats and small mammals. Did you find that it was seasonal, especially in road, and also in different types of rainfall, like low rainfall, we get more rat activity than in high rainfall times?
Okay, so perhaps I should preface this by saying that most of my work was done in a conservation reserve that's about 10 kilometres by 50 kilometres that's being fenced off to keep out cats and foxes. Because in the absence of fences, these animals would all be eaten. In fact, they are eaten very quickly. So I'm not able to look at that sort of thing in relation to a rainfall gradient. I agree it's seasonal, very seasonal, and these animals are going to be responding to the seeds that are available, to what's green at the time, what shrubs are coming out. So yes, it is very seasonal. Yeah.
I just want to ask a second, like in reseeding experiments, ants and seed-carrying small mammals are a no-go.
Yeah.
Because they carry away the seed and they burrow the seeds too deep.
Yeah.
You know, that the seeds go too deep in and that they cannot establish and emerge. I mean, that is a negative effect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there are negative effects. I mean, look, it's not all good with these guys because you get too many of them and, you know, they turn the soil. They change the patch dynamics from too many pits and not enough runoff. But yeah, I understand the problem. I don't know what the solution is with ants. I mean, to granulate the seed and make them bigger so they can't be carried up. It's not really my area of expertise, so I couldn't comment.
Sorry, there was okay, James, you go on.
Thank you. Your talk was excellent. I love that. But it's both positive and negative in my mind. Positive in that you make it something that we tend to forget about the importance of animals. So many of the global models, the ecosystem models that deal with carbon, nitrogen, water dynamics, and abiotic and biotic controls, they never have animals in them. I shouldn't say never, but rarely do they have the important ones that are being linked to GCMs and all that. So this is, I think, an important reminder of that. So that's really exciting. Maybe that's a negative thing because we don't do that. But the positive thing is, how do you relate this work to, and this is the true question, I don't know the answer, I've heard about ecological engineers.
Yes.
How does this fit in? Is this similar to that?
Yes, yeah.
In the literature of ecological engineers?
I guess the ecological engineer, the term was coined in the mid-90s by a group from Clive Jones and colleagues, Moshe Shahak, there's a group of them. And it really, look, ecological engineering is basically about animals or organisms altering their environment. Can be as simple as a tree catching water, or it can be an animal digging a hole. So yes, it's all related. I mean, I think the way to look at this in a practical sense, I gave this talk to a group of farmers, and I thought, they'd all be yawning. And this guy got up and he said, "This is amazing. We've got these echidnas. They run around everywhere. I didn't know that was so important. You're telling me that an echidna is going to produce grass that grows twice as much because it's digging, because it's growing, it's building a pit. Well, what I need to do is to make sure that I have enough woodland to protect these animals, so they've got a habitat, so I'm not hitting them on the road and all this sort of stuff. So it's about, a lot of it really is about educating and drawing to people's attention the importance of these things, and then well, I'm hoping it will just flow.
There are two questions actually from there. What did you do, Christina?
David, I really enjoyed it. It was an amazing talk. Thank you very much. But I don't agree with what you said.
Excellent.
Because I really think that your study showed what we have in plants that is a nursery plant. So rather than engineers, they are facilitating. And this is what I was telling you. It was that...
Well, I agree. The paper that we printed that we published in Plant Soil, we tried to couch that in terms of facilitation.
Yeah.
We tried to say these animals are facilitating plant growth by changing the soil. Oh, the facilitation mafia. They wouldn't have a bar.
They're crazy.
They wouldn't have a bar. We had to change the title.
But the nursery plants do exactly the same thing that your peat does.
Yes.
So you have a native plant
Yes.
that creates, it optimizes
Absolutely.
the conditions. You do exactly the same thing.
They're another ecosystem engineer.
No, it's a more, it's different.
I understand what you're
You
saying.
change the functional and you don't change the functional here.
There are two people with hands. I'll start off with
Sorry.
first and then to Violet.
Nice presentation. And you show us a slide in which demonstrates that the pits are concentrated along the trunk.
Yes, along the roots of the tree.
And the scale are in meter, 400 meter, and
50
5,000.
50 meter by, that was centimeters.
Centimeters.
4 meters by 50 meters. Yeah, sorry.
Do you have any pedagogical explanation for this? I mean, the soil is different?
No,
they
are probably eating fungi on the roots of trees. So you can see that one of them had a line, and I suspect it was eating the fungi on the roots of the tree, or it was digging up grubs that grow on the roots of trees. So most of the foraging is underneath a shrub, or underneath a tree, or along the root of a tree. So it's kind of reinforcing this kind of patchiness that exists.
Violet?
Yeah, what I would ask myself is if you mentioned that these animals do not exist in a specific ecosystem, which you would like to restore.
Yes.
How could you imitate the animals?
Yes. That's a $1 million question.
That's easy. 1,000 Australian students, a few beers along the way.
Yeah, no, Australians don't do very well. I'd probably get someone else.
No, but do you think the reason, as well as what I was thinking, is the hole, where you are destructing the calcium carbonate, for example, and then a hole is a physical thing where the litter goes into, and then you get an accumulation of litter and nutrients.
Yeah.
Or do you think that these animals
No.
have an additional?
No. I think it's the physical creation of a pit. Jim, do you want to?
I was going to ask you, is the answer to that, is an example of that Jim Brown's work when he did that study of the reorganization of ecosystems? Did he not, I don't remember, I'm hoping you do, but where he fenced off the area, did he not introduce some of the native engineers to these animals and found these tremendous differences?
Yes.
Is that?
It's a couple. it's a complex issue. I think the reason it's working, I mean, we try and do it, and what do? We have a huge swarm, you know, we have those pillars that create pits, and we do hundreds of hectares. It's random. What the animals are doing is kind of random. Well, it's not really random, but it's in various locations, and I really don't know.
But not only the physical, also the organic matter that you
Oh, sure, absolutely, sure, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot this mechanic.
Why can't you? But why can't you do it mechanically?
Because you cannot insert different depths, the amount of organic matter.
But
The amounts.
but then
The amount is different. See, you remember the work we did on Hockey Park?
Yes.
They are digging the roots of plant.
Yeah.
They eat half of the plant.
Yeah.
And the amount half the roots.
Yeah.
The amount of organic matter is accumulated over in the water. And that what gives the plants a higher biomass in the following rain season. The same thing with the end activities.
Maybe we can talk about this over.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. I'll have the last word on it. I also think it's got to do with change of microclimate, also, and possibly radiation and creating a bit of shade and just changing the microclimate a bit. Okay. All right. We've got to move on. Okay. The last focus of today is a report really by our working group leaders. We have 5 working groups. One is about dissemination. We have 4 working group leaders, and they have particular subject matters and topics that we've divided the action into, and we're going to just have a brief feedback from these working group leaders as part of our meeting towards the end of our conference today. So the first person will be Rainer Holberg Zamfir, and he's going to be talking to working group 1, Understanding Land Degradation and Causality, and then Christoph Kuells, Professor Christoph Kuells, and he's going to talk about the focus on soils and hydrology. Then we'll have Christina Branchina from University of Lisbon talking about the focus on plants and ecology, and then Gudrun Schultz from the University of Bern and the focus on land management. Okay, thank you. Which one is yours?
After the speeches of so many, it was quite a challenge to be here. But it's my fault. I proposed myself to be the leader of this working group. Nobody said no, thank you. So here I am. Well, so these are the objectives of our working group. First working group, we have the understanding of the big picture and gathering the dispersed knowledge of past and present research. We have to formulate a baseline for statements of form, especially with regard to the dryland areas of Europe, and to review the many direct and indirect factors that create land degradation in arid lands. And there are not easy tasks, especially because I'm coming from a different field. I'm a civil engineer and I work on irrigation and drainage, so I had to adapt to other fields. And the major tasks of our working group are to summarize the basis and framework for the restoration of the background, causes, indicators of land, and the results of restoration and mitigation in dry and arid areas, and to identify the gaps in the knowledge regarding the causality and land degradation processes. As activities, we have workshops, meetings, and conferences. And this is a calendar for the first 6 months. We created so far a Facebook page for the working group 1, where it's relatively it's not a developed Facebook page, but exists, so we'll improve it in the next period. We contacted the International Committee for Anthropogenic Soils, and thanks to our colleague Carmelo, we already have a draft paper about anthropogenic soils. I would like to thank all my colleagues for their support so far. We also have a draft template for case studies, and we prepare a skeleton for the second review paper, which will refer to the understanding European picture, causes, effects, and remedies. And we also have a pending issue, a webpage for the working group first, and this is of my fault, but we'll resolve this issue as soon as possible. For the next 2 months, we'll try to provide a comprehensive definition and knowledge in the form of a report for a clear apprehension of action key terms. There are some key terms in this action which must be explained, and we'll try also to provide a comprehensive review of direct and indirect factors that create land degradation in early lands. First of all, we surf the existing knowledge, and what we discover is that there is no single agreed definition of the term drylands. We also observe for the existing knowledge that the management of the drylands area should focus on the best management of available water. Also that the drylands may result from a combination between climatic aridity and climate physiological aridity, and the drylands are presenting a high variability over time. Referring to desertification, I stop at this worldwide review realized by Jens and Lemling. In 2004, they analyzed 132 case studies, and they identified 4 major categories of proximal causal agents: increased aridity, agricultural impact, wood extraction, and infrastructure extraction. And what they observed that 10% of the case studies were driven by a single cause, 30% were attributable to a combination of 2 causes, and 60% were a combination of 3 or 4 causes. Also, we observed that the scientists have not reached a consensus about the standard set of indicators to use in monitoring desertification. Many indices were not proposed to describe not the desertification, but the susceptibility of drylands to desertification. Also, the causes and consequences of dryland degradation remain controversial and often poorly understood. And not on the last, the desertification potential. It's a potential but not necessarily an outcome of land degradation. We also study a new framework which was presented by Oki in 2011, which explains the major forms of desertification in dryland ecosystem on the basis of landscape connectivity. They link the erosion processes with the vegetation shifts, with the connected pathways, and with the dynamics of land degradation. At the end, they highlight the importance of understanding the role of connectivity and landscape of sustainable management of drylands. Referring to restoration, we observe that it's important to have a sound understanding of both the biophysical and human dimensions of the causality. It is also important to incorporate the knowledge of dryland structure and functioning in management actions, and to evaluate and incorporate the existing socio-economic attributes and assess the potential for successful rehabilitation. There are many hot questions which are related to our action and to our work. Of course, it's not easy to answer all of these hot questions, but we'll try to gather some answers to provide a better image on the work of Working Group 1. The timetable for the next period. Well, a deadline for June 2013, so in the next couple of months, we will have to provide a better understanding of the European picture to identify the basis. For the October 2013, we will have to accomplish the task 1.1 data collection and understanding causes, effects, and remedies. For 2015, or until 2015, we'll have to analyze country-by-country scenarios, and we'll have, at the end, to finalize the European picture. Also, I think that it's important that these country-by-country scenarios to analyze also the legislation from different countries which are referring to the desertification, because, at least which I observed in Romania, is that the legislation referring to desertification has a lot of errors. They are making many mistakes. They are confounding different terms. They put an equal between aridity and drought or other terms like this. Among our main outputs will be 4 reports, one info per year, one book which will synthesize our work, and we'll try to finish at least 6 scientific papers. Also, I think that it will be very important to try to organize like an international conference for the early stage researchers and for the PhD students, because they must be much more involved in these topics and these problems. I think I finished earlier than I was supposed to. Thank you.
Thanks, George. If there are any questions, we can take one question, because I think we're running a little behind time. Anybody got anything? The work of the working groups, of course, will be updated continuously on the web page, so you can keep in touch with that. Our next working group leader is Professor Christoph Kuells. And he's from the University of Freiburg.
Thank you. I want to use the opportunity to introduce the work of Working Group 2, and I invite everyone interested in this work of contributing with contacting us. Our working group focuses on traditional and innovative systems. So from the beginning we are talking about land use systems, interaction of environment and humans, the way they use land, and we will focus on soil and hydrology. The working group members are Simon Berkovich, Eduardo Constantini, Barret Geissen, myself, Stephen Verno, Laszlo Martin, and Koen Witzema. These different scientists contribute from different perspectives, as I will show, from soil science, hydrology, ecology, physical geography. The whole program of the working group 2 is shown in this table. Actually, the first meeting workshop will take place tomorrow, focusing on understanding current practice and scenarios. We will then collect data on traditional innovative systems related to soil and hydrology, assess the existing systems, look at new systems and new methods, and I'm very glad that we have had so much input from all continents and different projects. Very, very useful and valuable for our work. A very important component is the exchange of early stage researchers. So this is also an activity that should start soon, and then we will have finalizing outcomes. I just want to highlight some aspects that have been demonstrated and mentioned in the tasks that we have heard. This is a map of the deserts, the Namib Desert, and one idea that we have seen in several talks is the importance of heterogeneity. Everything is in 3D now, so we should also look at ecosystems in drylands in 3 dimensions. This is just now the same region tilted and the hydrology of it. And if we now start looking at water flows in this environment, and we have done this with different modeling tools, we see that it's highly, highly complex. We think this is a good approach towards soil and water in drylands to realize this heterogeneity. So you see not only the 2-dimensional flows here, these are the different directions, but also the 3-dimensional component in blue and in red, where upward means blue and downward means red. So it's not difficult to imagine the impact this has on water in a dry environment when we have concentration and these different movements. As we have seen in the previous talk from Australia, we can take this system that creates heterogeneity, here visualized as a topo sequence or a different topography, and just zoom it in, and we will find the same distribution processes at the scale of decimeters and centimeters, and even in aggregates. So there's very interesting research on soils and on the role of aggregates. We will try to include these aspects in our working group. Another aspect that we try to look at is time. This is a visualization of groundwater flow in the same dynamic desert. These lines show the direction and different depth of flows and time scales. And I just want to point out that we are here talking about time scales of not only years, but decades, hundreds of years, and more if we look at groundwater. So time is very important. If we look at a desert landscape, we see snapshots of different adaptation stages to climate change. So we don't see just what's happening now. We see different states of the ecosystem at the same time. So another aspect of our working group will be the time for change. This has been mentioned by a talk from South Africa, that restoration takes time. And this time can be considerable. It can be decades or more. And one important thing, I think, is that we try to understand the time actions take to fully realize their impact. So these are curves or methods from Australia, in fact, where you see the time after environmental change, the percent of accumulated change for different residence times of systems, when you have increased recharge or decreased recharge, and you can actually anticipate or provide a prognosis on how fast changes will take place. And the last aspect I want to highlight is systems. So this is now an arid system with soils and water, and we just use the method here visualizing the different impacts human activity has. And if we do it, we realize that actually pumping of water or tillage, if you look at soils, influences almost all the functions of evaporation, recharge, in and outflow of the system. And one interesting aspect will be to look at the different effects human activities have on soils and hydrology, and on assist farmers and environmental managers in visualizing things. This is a summary on the last slide of the topics that we have collected among the working group. So we will deal with soil aridity, functions and processes of soils, looking at factors reducing, increasing soil aridity, and the soil water retention curve plays a very important role in this context, as we have seen in the talk from Spain. And the idea is to look at smart land use and effects with which we can improve soil water retention capacity. Another aspect is crusts. This is very important in relation to heterogeneity and space. How do they develop? How are they destroyed? Which function do they have on nutrients and biology? One aspect that has been mentioned that is contributed from a major European project, Cascade, is experiments, monitoring. We have also seen the examples from Spain. We will try to collect data from sites, experimental data on hydrology and soils, and I think it's a good idea, and I took this idea from you, to look at slow variables and to develop monitoring for the slow changes, for the slow build-up of organic matter and of the slow change of soil hydrology functions. So this will be something that we will consider. And finally, a hydrologist said, hydrology is nothing without prediction. We will need to develop tools for prediction, so we will try to develop advice on right decisions, sorry for the spelling, and on strategic decisions, also looking ahead for 10 years. And for this, of course, the response time, as I highlighted before, is very important. aspect that environmental change and restoration takes. Thank you very much.